Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video we're going to be looking at what your spirit guides want you to know over the next 90 days, which is a sizable amount of time, and time heals all. It's great when you are working towards a goal, a concept, some self-discovery, whatever it is, to have that central idea and then, well, enough time to break it into smaller parts in order to achieve it. Now, during this time period, we're going to be looking at anything that you can get excited about, anything to look for, be aware of, focus on, but even things that maybe are not so fun. I'm not saying it's going to pop up, but if it does, it pops up for a reason. And we can pre-see it, pre-learn from it, and basically avoid it, get around it. It's not something we should be scared of, but be like, oh, good to know. Thanks for, let's be aware of it now so we don't have to deal with it later. In addition to that, I just posted 2 new videos over on my Patreon. One is about hive minds. Yes, there's more than one, and well, it gets really interesting over there. And also the second video was a message from the collective spirit guides. It's some interesting updates that are going to be coming up, and it involves time travel, which was very interesting message to receive and talk about. Anyway, in addition to that, I also have an intuition training course and a tarot training course, which go very well together. They're meant to complement and benefit one another. In the intuition training course, you get to learn how to go to the spirit realm, meet your spirit guides, and figure out how to take those lessons you're learning and ideas and messages you're receiving there from the non-physical, bringing it into the practical, physical, everyday. And you start to realize how one benefits or relates to the other. And then over in the tarot training course, it goes into getting specific, detailed information, but simplifying the process so you can get into reading tarot right away. And essentially both are meant to be used daily, regularly, integrate into your regular questioning of the world and your experiences and so on and so forth. So just wanted to let you know those are available in the description below. Now, going back to our tarot reading, we have 4 groups in front of us. Do you not love how pretty these cards are? I love them already. We've got group number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group that you resonate with most. Now that you have, you can go down to the description where you can skip to your designated group and it's marked timestamp. But let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out, what do your spirit guides want you to know over the next 90 days by looking at the cards. We have the Devil in reverse, the Judgment card in reverse, the World card in reverse, the Queen of Wands upright, the Knight of Wands upright. Here, if you're anything like me, you like to see the cards. And we have 2 of Wands reverse. Okay, I'll go like this, but we know we're looking at it where it's connected, because the way I like to read cards is how they relate to one another. So I like it all lined up. So we're just visually looking at it like this for the sake of looking at the beautiful imagery and following along. So give me a second to look at everything, because I am seeing a very sort of common theme, if you will, popping up. Let me just look at this real quickly. Okay, so the way I would describe this is an extremely intense 90 days. And I don't mean intense as in you should be concerned or worried or anything like that. It's just that every single thing is gonna feel either like a big deal or be like a big positive step forward in your life, or like a big positive influence or something to contemplate. So it's a lot. Like everything has like an intensity to it, just to be aware of. And it's good to discuss these intensities, because sometimes intensity in feeling or emotions can make us think things are worse than they are, or make us pulled away from like we get lost in sort of the lesson rather than learning from it, or something that might not feel great is actually in fact very good, which is what we're going to be talking about. So first, let's start with what I would even call borderline the theme of these 90 days. So my spirit guide said that someone very important is going to be essentially walking out of your life. I asked if you would be leaving them or they would be leaving you, and they're going to leave you. And it's upsetting. I'm going to be honest with you, but hold on. There's some good stuff we're going to talk about. Now, my spirit guide said that this is in fact a beneficial thing. You're going to be really happy once all is said and done, and in the long term, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I'm getting so much more done. I'm more connected to myself, so on and so forth. But the way this was expressed to me by my spirit guide is it's like they're in your system, if you will. And this feeling that's running through you makes it feel like when they go away, it's like you're still sort of having this withdrawal type of feeling, and you can't let go of them, so to speak. So initially, your reaction will be like, oh no, they're not in my life anymore. And this has this is not specifically just romantic. I just want to double check. Yes, many different situations. Mostly friends and romantic. Any family? No family. Okay, cool. So this could be like a really deep, important friend or something like that. But whatever it is, you're going to initially have that reaction of like, how am I going to do things without them? I'm so used to them influencing or affecting my life in some way. But once those sort of effects wear off, so to speak, you're going to feel like a whole new person. But we do want to talk about those effects and what's going on over here. So we're going to repeat that again at the end. And it's important to be aware of those feelings and how it all ties back to what's going on right here. Because if we're aware of them, we can realize how we can kind of spin things more in our favor, so to speak. So then that leads to the Judgment in reverse card, which is really interesting. I'm going to show you the beautiful imagery on this card. So if you notice, we have a world, and sort of breaking through this world is another dimension, a parallel universe type of situation going on over here, breaking through it. And as you can see, the people down on the ground are feeling overwhelmed by it. It's a lot. It's shifting things, changing things that can be overwhelming. So that's one of the big things popping up over these 90 days, is you're going to be making a lot of decisions that actually feel quite wrong. They are shaking up your sort of feelings and emotions to the point that you might even worry that you're not coming from the best place or having good judgment, or you've somehow lost your intuition or something like that. But here's the really cool thing. No, you are actually making a huge positive shift. My spirit guide described it as something as like, sometimes you have to sort of crack the foundation, if you will, in order to create something new, step into this new world, this new beneficial side of yourself. And because it doesn't align up with, think of the best way I can explain when I say your world, I'm saying like your everyday choices in life and whatever is in your closest proximity. That's your reality. That's your world. And when you're making a decision out of that norm, you sort of almost deeply conditioned yourself, if you will, with how you'll respond to things, interact, what you like and don't like. So when you start to make something such an abrupt decision, it's like on an energetic level, you're like, something's off, something feels wrong. But that doesn't mean because it feels wrong or you're making these decisions that maybe make you nervous initially or something like that, but you feel called to do it, that you're actually making a bad choice, and that somehow your alert system's like being like, you shouldn't do this and you should then follow that. It's having a normal reaction because it's going, this is what we're used to. This is our reality. We don't want anything different. And then you're going, but I want to try something different. And that deep conditioned part of yourself is like, but this is new. This is different. I don't know if I can handle this. So understand that these changes are really positive and good, and you're actually moving towards a direction you're going to be really happy with. So when you have those moments of like, am I lost? Am I losing my sense of intuition? No. You have to reflect back at this moment and go, nope, this is just my sort of inner conditioning, inner programming that's changing. and it's gonna feel a little weird initially. I'm actually moving in the right direction. So keep that in mind throughout the month, because that's really important. Now going over here, this is something that's really interesting because it's an opportunity that you have a chance to take, but at the end of the day, it's something that you're going to either choose to do or not. I mean, I would recommend choosing it because what we got going over here in the Knight of Wands and how it can benefit over here with these two cards we're going to go over. But the relationship going on here is between the World card in reverse and the Queen of Wands. Now, this is you representing the Queen of Wands. And you have an opportunity over these 90 days to really take center stage in expressing your opinions, your stance, letting people know, like, this is what I have to offer, being really blunt, saying, like, I'm good at this. You should listen to what I have to say. This is my opinion. This is my pitch, whatever that is. Because over this time period, things are sort of coming into alignment, if you will, many different factors where people are going to pay attention. You will get recognized in a positive way. People will care about what you have to say. And this is your stance, your opportunity to take a stance, be taken to say, like, hey, you should respect me. We should go with what I'm thinking, and have that be sort of like people have a positive feedback to that. Now, in the World card in reverse over here, hold on a second, let me just try to remember what my spirit guide said. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Sorry, my spirit guide was just talking to me, explaining to me. They were like, this. Okay, so in the World card in reverse, this is when you are needing some sort of, you haven't had any sort of triumph or success in a while. It's not necessarily that you haven't had success. It's more like you need a win, so to speak. It's like you would feel better if you had something you could say, like, oh, I did this, or I accomplished this in some way. So essentially, this is the thing, as my spirit guide said, that you didn't know you needed. And so while that opportunity is there, you still have to step up to the plate and start sort of speaking to the crowd of whoever you speak to, whether it be the group that you currently work with, in front of your friend group, whatever it is, you're going to start vocalizing what it is you think and feel, what you think they should do, and being pretty vocal about being like, hey, I'm pretty proud of what I had to offer. Do you guys want to see it? And just being open and confident in that kind of way. You're going to get a positive reception, and you're going to be really happy with how much it's the best way I can explain it is, sometimes we're looking for, what is it, that thing I need right now? And we don't realize this is it, essentially. So it's the thing you didn't know you needed. That's the best way I would like to put it. Now, it's interesting who it attracts over here in the Knight of Wands. So I did check, this is for whoever you are attracted to, so all the different genders and stuff like that. But with the Knight of Wands, somebody is going to be drawn to you, and it is a potential romantic partner. I did ask, well, what if they have somebody they're already happily with? And they said, my spirit guide said, it just doesn't apply to them then. This would only be if you're not with someone, if you're kind of, you know, things are, maybe you're questioning things with your person and you're already kind of feeling like it's towards the end or something like that of that situation. Whatever it is, this other individual steps up to the plate. Now, they're really drawn to this energy you've got going on over here. And let's be real, you're available. You're no longer, and this could be, remember, this could be either the romantic person that's leaving your life that's no longer a positive influence for you anymore and is leaving, or this could even be friendship. Maybe sometimes we are consumed too much by a negative friendship and influence. We're not really allowing ourselves to be in other social situations. And essentially, you're open, you're stepping up to the plate, you're putting yourself on center stage, and they are noticing. Now, I do want to point this out, that they have an intense energy. The best way I can explain it, and it's really interesting because I was talking to my spirit guide about this in the beginning of this reading. The best way I can explain it is like, they normally with the Knight of Wands, this is somebody who's quite vivacious with the way they express themselves, but this person is not. They are quiet. They're very noticeable, but it's that type of magnetism that is through energy. And you just can't help it. You're drawn to them. They really seem to call a lot of attention just by being existing, but they're not calling attention because they're constantly like putting on a show or communicating all the time. But when you're with them, it is, I can't say this any other way. Again, this is the theme of the next 90 days, is it's just intense. They stare at you, it's like they're piercing into your souls, and they're drawn to you and vice versa, which is really nice. Now, I do want to talk about some things over here that are popping up that you should be aware of, that are, maybe you might feel it for a second, but you should be aware that they don't have to continue to dictate the rest of the next 90 days. So one, we have the Ace of Wands. This is essentially you potentially lamenting and feeling like you're unable to have a passion for life and sort of a, you could say, borderline disconnect with yourself due to this other influential person leaving. This is just the withdrawal stuff we were talking about kicking in. And this is not necessarily true at all. That in fact, you will feel a greater sense of connection to yourself and life, and clearly attract someone who is really overflowing to the brim with that same sort of energetic life. I don't know how to put it any other way. They've got a lot of life in them, you know what I mean? Drawn to you. But it's this person who was actually making you feel the opposite, so you're sort of mirroring and experiencing that energy from them initially leaving. But that doesn't mean you need to keep feeding that idea by saying to yourself, oh, I just don't feel anything now that they're gone. I'll never feel anything again. Life feels more boring. What am I going to do without them? Do the best you can to say, okay, I don't feel great right now, but there's always other options. There's always other friends. I've had many friends throughout my entire life. I will always find somebody else. There's always another person to bond with, admire, be in love with, someone. There's always another option. This is not it. And if I feel like this, maybe this wasn't the best possible option. Do you feel like you're more focused on the bad feeling rather than all the good memories you had? And if you feel like you're more going towards all the bad feelings you're feeling initially from the initial separation, then that right there says it all, essentially. And so you just want to do the best you can to not judge yourself for feeling initially bad, but also not feed it to the point where you're not allowing yourself to, because remember, this is a choice. You're stepping into this role and these opportunities that they pop up and you see them. Remember, whenever, if you're hanging out with a bunch of friends, you're going to take a second to stop, talk to the group, let them know what you're thinking and feeling, tell a joke that's on your mind, whatever, that type of thing. And then over here with the Two of Wands in reverse is a similar idea. And let me just think about this for a second. I'm trying to remember what my spirit guide said. Oh, yes. Okay, now I remember. So in the Two of Wands in reverse, my spirit guide said that when, again, this initial other person leaving your life, it will feel like you're kind of afraid to sort of move forward. It's interesting. It doesn't feel like they are the sole reason why you haven't taken certain steps to move forward, go to that next step in your life, the next journey into your life. Maybe you have some plans you want to work towards or something like that, and you just really haven't, taken that initiative. Well, initially you might be like, oh, well, I'm feeling this sense of I'm missing them. I'm not really sure what to do next. I'm feeling dispassionate about life and disconnection from that, and sort of using it as a crutch, if you will, to be like, this is why I can't move forward. But in reality, the Two of Wands in reverse is all about, hey, you've done enough. Whether that be through organization or thinking about what it is you want, you have done enough, and now you're ready to step up to the plate and maybe take those steps to move forward. So again, it's not just that you are realizing that we talked about how you're going to take that initiative forward through both the making decisions that might feel like following those epiphanies as they arise that might be outside of the normal way you experience life, process information. You're just going to make choices that are a little bit different than what people would normally expect of you or you would expect of yourself. And then also the more speaking to the crowd and stuff like that and putting yourself more on center stage and being proud of whatever it is you have to offer very publicly and stuff like that. But this is you not only taking those initiatives, but again, it's that same thing we talked about, the mantra of being aware of both being non-judgmental, but also sort of keeping it in check. It's about being aware that that other person didn't hold you back. No one can hold you back. And that if you feel like you're focusing on it and you're like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should be doing that. One, don't approach it in a judgmental way. No one is exactly where, there's no rule in life that you have to be somewhere at a certain time, a certain age. Don't worry about those things. There's always an exception. Everybody's doing their own thing, and you'd be surprised how normal it is for things to be a little like late in life or stuff like that. But also, in addition to that, you're checking in with yourself and you're like, well, if I'm clearly focused or bothered by this, then that means I want this. So I know what I need to do. I'm going to start following and shaking things up a little bit, doing something I don't normally do. What do I have to lose? Let me try it out. This is where I'd like to go. I'm clearly being drawn to this. And so I just thought you would like to know that. Oh, also, before I forget, I just want to say this before I forget, the black horse. Okay, so this is really cool. So if you are having a good time over on my Patreon, I actually talked all about all black horses. They have to have no single other feature like a little white mark on the nose or anything like that. But in the spirit realm, all black horses are like wonderfully spiritual because they are the ones that hold the codes that they carry between the spirit realm and the physical world. And essentially, when you see a group of just like wild horses, or maybe there's like a group of horses that are all owned together or something like that, and you see one that is all black, that is a particularly important group of spiritual workers essentially going on and doing their thing. All white horses are the healers, and all black horses are essentially the code carriers. Everybody has their own important, purpose and value and stuff like that. But I think it's really interesting it's being paired with the potential partner, essentially, that I don't think it's a coincidence is what I'm saying, that there is some sort of spiritual vibe going on with why they're drawn to you, the interaction it seems like you're going to be having. Because realize also with this imagery, notice how this is you sort of caught in your feelings, processing what you're experiencing, trying to overcome it. Notice how if you get too into your feelings, and again, don't judge yourself because you're having them. That's okay that you're feeling off or something like that. It's about not being mad at yourself, but making sure it doesn't consume you, essentially. See how they sort of turn into more feelings of feeling cut back or lost or something like that, compared to this individual who is drawn to the individual over here who's lighting up the room, choosing to light up the room because you can light up the room. People are receptive of that. You get the gist. So essentially, pretty intense month, but in a good way. There's a lot of change, a lot of things where you're stepping into a new version of yourself. It's very empowering and exciting and shaking things up. And we went over some important things to keep in mind to help you best process these ideas and themes and be aware of the bigger picture. Because let's be real, when we have certain, these are really awesome changes that can feel great right away. But sometimes when something happens, like somebody leaves our life, it can initially feel like the opposite. But we're going over how positive it is, how great you're going to feel in the long term, how quickly somebody else is popping up to sort of be drawn to you and add to that. And I don't want to say replace that, because we don't replace people with other people. We just enjoy the new ones that come in. But you get what I'm saying. So I hope you just totally enjoyed that reading and you feel excited and pumped about the things that you're going to be enacting in this world. And let's be real, Queen of Wands is the ultimate magnetic likability card. So take advantage of that likability. Whenever Queen of Wands pop up, she's a girl where it's like, ask for what you want over the next 90 days. You're gonna get it, essentially. But you just have to be aware that you do need to ask. So anyways, please leave a like on this video and a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see all my videos. It helps out the channel so much. I appreciate it so deeply. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2, let's find out, what do your spirit guides want you to know over the next 90 days by looking at the cards. We've got the 9 of Swords in reverse, the 10 of Swords upright, King of Wands upright, the Strength card upright, the Hermit upright, and the 8 of Cups upright. Give me a moment to just look over everything so I can see what this means. Interesting. Some interesting stuff over here. Okay, so first, let's get over to the 9 of Swords in reverse. This is going to be so wonderful. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is going to be an extremely impactful month for you because things that have sort of haunted you for a while will feel like they have answers and feel like they're more beneficial rather than a burden, which is huge. So let's start off with this experience going on here in the 9 of Swords in reverse and the 10 of Swords upright. So over here in the first card, this is about a huge sort of relief, washing of a relief energy wave over you. And it appears that, I'm being told that a lot of you suffer from regular anxiety. And it's that type of energy where you're just like, you're not quite sure how to control it. It just pops up once it gets started. You're not quite sure why it's happening, and the thoughts just keep going over and over again. And I mean, it's extremely overwhelming. So without sort of explanation, there's nothing specific that you need to do because you've already essentially done previous work. This is really interesting. So when you like work on yourself or do different things, it sometimes takes a second to click in or add up, and it isn't always a sort of epiphany you'll have where you essentially just are like, oh, that's it, and then instantly feel better. Sometimes you're living life and it's sort of having that epiphany or click, if you will, like we're talking about, on a more subconscious level. And that subconscious level is adding up over like a period, a couple weeks or days. And so you'll just sort of wake up without explanation of understanding something about yourself or able to let something go that you weren't able to let go of in the past, that type of thing. So essentially you did the work in the past. You did a good job. Good job. And you get to have this great sense of relief, which is huge. And it's not really clear why, but you're definitely enjoying the break from this. Now, keeping that in mind, this nice relaxation you're experiencing, it doesn't mean the thoughts necessarily go away. But instead of the thoughts being something that feel like they bring you down or are overwhelming or you feel like you can't control them, instead, this is a very idea heavy time period, like lots of concepts and possibilities running through your head, lots of creative expression, all just these ideas popping up constantly in your head. Again, this is a good thing, not ideas like what could be or what if in a scary sense, more of like, ooh, here's a project, or what if you looked at it from this direction, or this could mean that. It's very exciting and creative and happy, and because it's sort of constantly flowing through your brain, it makes life feel very exciting and happy. These hands, my spirit guide said, are supposed to represent this idea of all these ideas and exciting thoughts going through your head, lifting you up. So you feel this great sense of general relief in emotions and energy and all that good jazz, because the previous way that you sort of were going through life and the way it was pulling you down is gone. And instead, yes, you're not just completely relieved and not thinking anything. You're actually thinking quite a bit and getting quite excited about all your ideas and realizing how much of a gift you have and getting to enjoy that gift rather than it feeling like we talked about before, a burden where you didn't really feel like you were previously like getting the full benefit of it. Now you are, essentially, which is great. Now, this is all positive and good. This is an abrupt one that's popped up, but we're just keeping that in mind. So the King of Wands represents someone, my spirit guide said, that will try to romantically try to make a move on you a couple times, try to want to pursue you. And I want to be absolutely clear about this. My spirit, sorry about that. I had a little bit of an interruption. Going back to what we were saying. Now, I want to be clear. My spirit guides never say this, but they said that you should stay away from this person at all costs. They were very serious about that. They don't normally say that stuff. Remember, you do you, boo, but they say stay away from this person at all costs. And they said very ominously that this other person knows exactly what they're doing and is more aware of their sort of motives and the way they're handling the situation than they might let on. Now, I said, well, how will they know this is the person? Because depending on where you're at in your life, if you're casually dating a bunch of people, or maybe you're seeing a person for a couple weeks and then another person, remember 90 days is a lot of time. My spirit guide said that your spirit guides are going to either knock on your door or your wall. Let me just check if it's both. Either or, my spirit guide said. And essentially, no one's going to be there. So you'll knock on the door, no one's at the door. You'll knock on the wall, there's just a knock on the wall, there's no explanation. Don't worry, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just your friendly spirit guides letting you know, like, that person you're talking to right now, that person that contacted you today, maybe you're in the middle of a text, that's the person. Don't talk to them. Stop talking to them. You're going to be better off for that. Now, going on, we have the Strength card, which, as you can see, we've got her looking into the mouth of this little guy. And think of this green little line representing, this is how my spirit guide put it, the parts of yourself that you find maybe were ugly. Now, that doesn't mean they are, but that's how you felt about them. They're parts of yourself that you just didn't really love and didn't know how to love. And it appears over these 90 days, as you get that sense of mental relief from, we talked about from the past, essentially you were able to, after you get some time of, acclimating and feeling more relaxed in general, and that becoming your new norm, you're able to look back at those parts of yourself and look at it with fresh eyes and essentially realize and be able to find a reason to love that side of yourself, even if that side of yourself is in the past or you're currently working on that side of yourself, and be able to have a deep new appreciation. And my spirit guide said that it's really important that you do, because it will be a major part of your healing process. But the beautiful thing is everything lining up timely wise, essentially you're at the best possible perspective and place in your life to look at it, because the best way to think of it is sometimes, when we're not able to say nice things about ourselves or love ourselves, that might not be the best time to dive into those things. But once your brain sort of stops attacking itself, you feel more relaxed, you're chilling out, well, it is a lot easier to look over those things. You're not coming at it from that same repetitive inner monologue. You're able to look at it with fresh eyes, and you're essentially having to exercise and say, how can I find a way to love this? And not be afraid that by seeing it and looking at it again, you're somehow going to activate something else bad. Not at all. Everything's going to be okay. You're ready to see it and love it in order to feel complete and accept and realize every single part of you is wonderful and is special. Even the parts of yourself that maybe, you know, you initially were not on good terms with. It just took a little bit, but you came there in the end. Then we have the Hermit card, which interestingly enough has to do with Edgar Allan Poe. And my spirit guide says it has nothing to do with the Hermit card and the traditional meanings or introspective in that kind of way. Instead, it has to do with poetry, interestingly enough. And I said, oh, you mean like Edgar Allan Poe poetry? And they said, no, it would be poetry, and it wouldn't be poetry in a book. My spirit guide said that it would be poetry like in a non-conventional kind of way. Like I was shown almost like poetry on the end of like a tea slip, you know, and sometimes when you have tea at the very end, there'll be like a little bit of poem or something like that. Or maybe it's on the back of a bottle or something like that. You're enjoying some beverage or something like that, or you see it on a sign. It would not be you just picking up a book of poetry, but you will be drawn to this poetry. And remember, poetry is not something that we see in everyday life very commonly. We just don't realistically. It's not used a ton. I don't personally come across a lot of poetry on my day-to-day. But when you notice this poetry, you will be naturally drawn to it. My spirit guide said you're going to want to essentially look deeper into that meaning of the poem. Why were you drawn into it? And really start to pull apart all the potential other meanings, concepts, ideas behind it. You're just really going to want to like take note of that poem, maybe take a picture of it, and definitely journal about it in order to explore those thoughts even more. Or, you know, you can go travel to your spirit guide and talk about it, or pull some tarot cards and talk to your spirit guides or your higher self or whomever to get down to the deeper meaning. But there's some importance there in that type of unconventional poetry. Now over here we have the Eight of Cups. And this is really interesting because the moon, if you're familiar with my tarot training course, is actually all about this idea of there being some sort of blockage and you being aware that there's a blockage and being like, hey, wait a minute, I see that I'm being blocked from something. And you're meant to. That's the whole purpose of it. You're meant to see that because it's what's behind the moon. It's what's behind the blockage that is the truth, that is the answer. And that having that sort of hidden from you initially, you seeing that it's hidden, then diving into why that is, and then going into, sorry, I'm distracted. I just saw one of my spirit guides like pass by. Sorry about that. Anyway, so by digging deeper into it, and you're supposed to be aware of that. Well, we're taking that perspective over here at the Eight of Cups. So my spirit guide was like, don't those Eight of Cups look weird? Like, and I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, don't they seem out of place? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you know, if they were making like a proper tower, you know, there's some cups missing. And my spirit guide said, exactly. I said, well, what's the tower supposed to represent? And my spirit guide said, the tower is representing something that the individual, are working towards, like an emotional sort of completion goal, so to speak. And that you have had parts of yourself that feel like they're missing, essentially. Oh, wait a minute. Has this something to do with soul fragment loss? A little bit. Okay, I go over soul fragment loss in, I'm pretty sure my past lives video that's on here, and I go into extensive soul fragment loss, and I do a guided meditation about how to get that back over on my Patreon. So I'm just putting that out there. But anyways, going back on to this, so essentially, the question you're going to be asking when that, you know, arises, when you're taking note of that your spirit guides want you to know about, is you're going to not just ask what is missing. You're going to actually more focus on why is it missing. And I'm getting this vibe, and let me just double check with my spirit guide if this vibe is correct. And my spirit guide was like, your vibe's absolutely correct. So the vibe we've got going on here is that when you're asking why, let's say you maybe had not the greatest relationship with someone in the past, whomever that was, and you're like, well, I don't feel like myself because of them. Well, if you've already already known that, that's not the answer. It's something that you need to dive deeper into. Like maybe the answer is there's a part of you that felt like you could allow them to take that. And then diving deeper into that and going, why do I feel like I wanted to allow that? And then asking questions of being like, did you feel like you couldn't trust yourself? Why couldn't you trust yourself? And then going deeper and deeper and deeper to understand why that is. Because sometimes, and this is what's really interesting when I got into all this type of, I guess the best way you can explain it is like understanding the world around you. You'd be surprised how much the question you're not asking is more of the answer than the thing that's straight in front of you. Because initially, if you're like, yeah, I'm trying to feel more whole as a person, your first instinct is just like, well, what's missing? And you're like, I don't know what's missing because it's not there. And then it's like, actually, well, no, actually, it's not important what's missing. It's like, why do you think that's missing? And by realizing what you think people can and cannot take from you, which is not true, they can't take anything from you. You're beautiful, you're whole, you're an infinite being and all that good jazz. But by realizing that, sometimes that's in place the thing that then brings back the missing pieces. So just keep that in mind. So you're going to basically go through a lot of like whys to yourself. But ultimately, besides being a very introspective and beautifully internally healing month, which is really great, it's really fun, creative, and relaxing month too. So it's a lot of just like finally feeling like you had a break from that inner monologue from your head, but also getting kind of excited about what you're thinking and realizing how much it's actually a strength and a benefit, and enjoying what you previously worked on, avoiding stuff you don't need to work on, and then being able to look at things that previously were hard to look at, being able to finally feel like you can and it not feeling overwhelming, and then in turn sort of completing the process of feeling like not only do you feel relaxed and relieved, but you also get to then continue that because you're essentially setting up a more long-term stability internally inside you, which is really beautiful. Also, I don't know about you, but it's just really fun to know stuff about yourself and feel like parts of yourself or your past that felt like, why did this happen? You feel like, oh, okay. Oh my gosh, this makes me a great special human being. I've actually been great and perfect all along. You know what I mean? That's like really beautiful, wonderful sensation. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave on this video a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 3. Let's find out, what do your spirit guides want you to know over the next 90 days by looking at the cards? Okay, we have the 5 of Cups upright, the Tower card upright, the Sun card upright, which I can already hear my spirit guide talking about these 2 cards, the Star card upright, the Moon card upright, and the Fool card upright. Okay. Give me one moment to look at all of the cards. Interesting. Okay, let's get into this. So first, let's start off with these 2 cards because there is a parallel going on in the non-physical and the physical world. I'm laughing to myself because that just often seems to be the case, which is why I went into the whole intuition training course, but let's go stick to the point. So we got with the 5 of Cups upright, which my spirit guide says is related to the continuous, unintentional attraction of essentially ghosts. Now, I know this is a little bizarre to hear, but hear me out. So essentially, a thing that can happen is when people, are no longer here, they can get stuck. Not every time, but they can. And essentially, they are trying to make their way out of that in between and move on and go on to live their next lives and whatever. It's very uncomfortable. So one of the ways they try to move on is they will attach themselves to people. Now, when they attach themselves to people, they can kind of influence our emotions and thoughts to a certain degree. Now, this is not I want to be clear, this is not always the case, but sometimes when your thoughts start to feel particularly negative or feel like it's not the normal way you think and flow, not every time, I don't want to make a blanket statement here, not at all. A lot of the time we're just, going through the motions. This can be a way sort of, essentially the ghosts are attracted to your light and want to sort of get your attention. And just to be honest with you, they're drawn and attracted to your light, so to speak. So we want to get them off you. And here's the thing. It's super easy peasy. Now I'm going to give you the easy method, and I'm going to give you another method if you're interested in exploring your gifts and abilities. And I'm going to explain why this is actually a good thing and it will not be a forever thing. So the easy way. When you have them attached to you, all you have to do is you can just put your hand to your heart. You don't have to put your hand to your heart, but I feel this gives it more intention. And you say, hey, spirit guides, if I have any, ghosts attached to me, could you please remove them and, help cross them over, please? You sit there with that idea for maybe like 10 seconds, give it a real clear intention, give yourself a second to adjust, and there you go. They'll cross them over for you, easy peasy. You can also ask angels if you vibe with that more, but there you go, super easy peasy. Keep in mind there are integration times, so sometimes you can still feel kind of spooky or feel a little off for maybe, a couple minutes, a couple hours. It's not always the case. It depends on how open you are, your journey and stuff like that. But here's the other more complex version. Now you can actually go to the spirit realm, which I go over in my intuition training course. Or if maybe you're familiar with yourself, and you can essentially talk to them and say, hi, how are you? What's going on? Why are you attached to me? How did you go? Is there anything you need help with? And sometimes they just need some sort of closure and you just talk to them about it. And you can always ask. And here's the thing. When you go to the spirit realm, a lot of the time your spirit guide's going to pop up essentially and be with you and be like helping you sort of talk through it. It actually gets really interesting here. This is a side ramble if you're interested in this stuff, and I can go into more context in this over on my Patreon. But sometimes you'll start to explain something to be like, oh, well, this, and then your spirit guide's going to stop you and go, no, 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 don't say that. They don't want to hear that. That's not going to be the thing that makes them feel better. And so it's really interesting to like pull back. Don't worry, you can't mess it up. They can just like rewind things, and then essentially you can jump into, actually, I meant this, you know what I mean, to essentially make them feel better. So anyways, so you can just ask it to be pulled off of you, or you can go and talk to them, and then they will be still crossed over by someone else, but you can essentially be like, what's going on? Let's let you go. You ready to go now? You get what I'm saying. Now, here's the thing. This is so interesting. I've actually personally gone through it myself, but I have seen it happen to a lot of individuals that go on to be incredibly in touch with their psychic abilities. So the more, the better you are at basically, how do I say this? Okay, so you're going to go through some trials is the best way I can explain it. And sometimes people don't know they're going through these trials. So when they're going through it, they just think like, what's happening? What's wrong with me? What's going on? Is this punishment? Not at all. This is practicing that you are able to sense them, whether that be through seeing, feeling, experiencing, identify, even if it's really small, you just feel off and you're like, something's off. That alone is using your abilities and identifying them. Also, it's being self-aware that you're that capable, that strong in your light and your connection that they're drawn to it. Also, if you can start to communicate with them directly, you can start to tap into your medium abilities and stuff like that. Now, keep in mind, it is not a forever thing, But I have known a lot of individuals who go through either a ghost time period, a middle world time period, where middle world beings keep getting drawn to and attached to you, and both can easily be removed, or both. But the point is, when this is happening, this is sort of like the world, the universe, you telling yourself like, hey, you've got this ability. Look at how easy it is for you to go talk to your spirit guides. Look how easy it is for you to get them taken off. Look at all the capabilities you have. And it's for a period of time. Again, not forever. I do want to point out before I move on from this subject that in the long term, if you would like to not deal with this, because it can, I'm not trying to sound insensitive here, but it can get annoying. It can be kind of tiresome. You can, after a certain point, or you can ask continuously, hey, when this is done, when I have, received the lesson, whatever this time period when they're not constantly attracting them, you can ask your spirit guides, can you block this off? I don't want to constantly see with them, deal with them, cross them over. Because I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There's a lot of them, and it is continuous. So, it's up to you if you want to continuously see them and work with them, but you can sort of have it blocked off that you can live a normal life. But it's just a temporary thing to show you, look at your abilities, look at where you're growing. And I cannot tell you, every single time I've come in contact with somebody who is just nonstop keeps attracting them, they are essentially moving into a more empowered state, specifically with their connection with the non-physical. And it is not solely limited to just this. It opens up in a much bigger, more amazing way, and I can go into more details like that if you want. But it's a good thing, even if it feels a little annoying. But keep this in mind that my spirit guide said that you want to regularly, and when I say regularly, I mean daily. Start your day, maybe at different points of the day. Just say to yourself, hey, just checking with my spirit guides. If I have anything attached to me, can you please remove it? And just do this periodically. It takes 10 seconds. It's not a big deal, but you're essentially doing maintenance and constantly removing them and realizing that you have this ability and control. Now going on, the Tower card's actually very similar, but instead of the non-physical sort of being drawn to you, connected to you and stuff like that, the Tower card is about individuals in the physical world sort of trying to influence you. I don't want to say push your buttons. It's more like they want your attention is the best way I can put it, but you're not really interested in giving it to them. Now the good thing about it is you're being represented as this head in this cage. So like you being able to realize what you can remove from yourself in the non-physical, you're also very in control of yourself over these 90 days of being able to successfully block them out. So if there's ever a concern of someone going to eventually get to you, bother you, maybe they're not trying to be annoying or antagonizing, but you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I just want to stay in my continuous flow and what I believe in. Like, sometimes somebody's being very negative and then you accidentally get caught up in that negativity. It's like, you're not going to get caught up on it, but it is about you actively blocking them out. And the way my spirit guide said it is you want to do that thing where you initially say to yourself, okay, I'm blocking them out. I'm not going to pay attention to it, but it's not about continuously staying focused on blocking them. It's about blocking them out mentally and being like, okay, I'm just not going to listen to you. I know what I believe in. I know who I am. I don't want to be influenced by this. I'm not going to be influenced by this. And then essentially redirecting your attention to what is interesting. Everyone gossiping about how work can be dramatic and blah, blah, blah. And you essentially being like, yeah, I don't really need that. I just want work to be work and whatever. And then you start daydreaming about a show that you're really excited to watch when you get home, or maybe some fun mail you bought yourself or something like that, and keeping your attention there and practicing that technique regularly. Again, notice how they're very mirroring each other, same vibes. You're successful in both, but both are making you a stronger and an aware individual, because we're not aware of how empowered we are until we practice it. So remember, both these things are temporary. You're going to have success in them, but they are not a curse. They're not negative. They're not forever. They're just a temporary thing that you will be proactively successful in. Now the Sun card, totally different vibes here, very cute. My spirit guide says you're going to feel very humorous over these next couple months. Just jokes come to you easier, a lot more silly, a lot more fun. And my spirit guide said that you essentially should lean into this, which I think is really fun. Like, you're essentially fostering it and giving it a chance to become more of the norm of who you are. But it definitely comes to the surface a lot easier. You are going to also attract into your life a lot more fun little silly moments and memories and that type of thing, and you should pay attention to them, give them attention, and just vibe and have a good time. And isn't that beautiful? Then we have the Star card. Now this is really interesting because, wow, the sun, the star, and the moon. Wow. Sorry, these are all really powerful cards. Interesting. I mean, well, we talked about how powerful the power you're stepping into over here, so that only makes sense. But anyways, going on to the Star card. So in the background of this individual, you see this sort of, the way my spirit guide is describing it, as a memory of where they came from. And that this is something that's going to be coming into your mindset for the most part. Now, this is where it gets really interesting how my spirit guide put it, because for some of you it is the memory of where you came from, in the sense of like maybe you came from a different it could be a different country, it could be a different town, maybe in that place you felt more like yourself. But because this is a general reading, in many cases it is actually this longing for the cosmos, if you will, which I think is really fun, and can it really have a big, like, there's a lot of ways of perceiving that, and depending on who you are, why you're longing for that, and you're sort of longing for where you truly came from. You could also see it as like how do I put this? I'm sorry, I'm trying to put this in the most comprehensive way. Think about it this way. We all, at our core, are souls, and essentially everything else is like a cool, fun little meat suit we're wearing, essentially, and we're vibing currently in this lifetime as the individual you are. In another lifetime you're doing something else, but the core of who you are comes from the non-physical, and you were a soul and infinite and all that jazz. You're still infinite now, I just want to keep that in mind, but you get what I'm saying. So when you have you're connected in that kind of way, it's not, I want to be absolutely clear, you're not longing to return back to it and do anything. You are essentially thinking about how, like, wow, when I was connected to those cosmos, if you will, that felt really great. Like, I'm feeling this inner sense of like, when I'm connected to like my true inner being, I know what that feels like again. It's almost like a memory. I'm waking up, I'm connecting to that type of thing. So that's one possibility. I'm just putting that when it talks about longing for that to be. Now, as you're longing for where you came from, wherever that perspective is, this is where a really cool bunch of unexpected chain of events happens. Essentially, you're connecting to what it was that made you feel like the most version of you, and then things are naturally being drawn into your close reality, the world that you have built for yourself around yourself, to essentially draw you closer to those ideas and feelings and values. So that longing is something that is like basically positive manifestation. You're essentially putting out to the universe like, hey, really loved when I felt like this when I lived here, or I really loved feeling interconnected like this when I technically came from like the universe and everything like that. And you're more and more essentially connecting to that, vibing with that in your current space. So it's not necessarily about going back to, because we're always moving forward. It's about knowing, oh, you know what? I love what I have here, and I love what I had then. How can I merge that all beautifully together to feel like the best version of myself? I've learned a little bit now, and I've learned a little bit then, and I want to mesh it up and make a new recipe. So I love that. Really cute. Then we have the Moon card and the Fool card, which are connected. So the Moon card's really interesting. So my spirit guide said that you will essentially be moving towards the truth, is the best way I can say it. It's very vague in this case, but it appears that you will have a sense of when things are being kept from you. There's a longing to know, like, well, what is the truth, essentially? And you're just drawn to that continuously. A good way of explaining this kind of vibe is when you're naturally drawn to a bunch of, like, those, what are they called? true crime podcasts and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the case, but you're drawn to like, well, what is really happening? Or even when you can tell maybe your coworkers aren't giving you the full explanation of why something's happening, you can feel it. Now, the interesting thing here is as you dig deeper into the truth and you long for it, if you see here in this imagery in the shadow of the waters, you will come across your shadow self. Now, what is your shadow self for people who are unfamiliar? This is like the part of you that gets jealous when you see maybe someone flirting with your significant other or potentially, in the past or something like that. Because why would you get jealous if you know that they are with you and they're not going to do anything, as well as you're confident in yourself? If you're jealous, you'd have to be self-reflective and be like, oh, I'm not confident about either myself or the circumstance going on. And that would be like checking in with those parts of yourself. Nothing bad. It's just a fun little like hint. Again, look, not unlike what we talked about over here. These attachments are a hint of your strength. The shadow self is a hint of something else. Now you're going to lean into, basically your spirit guides want you to lean into that shadow self, not necessarily give into the parts of yourself that are maybe not the most fun to experience, but I mean more like when you notice those parts of yourself sort of pop up like inkling of thoughts and stuff like that, it's about then digging deeper into that, because by digging deeper into that, that is bringing you closer to the truth that you're seeking. So you're getting both the truth within yourself and the truth of the circumstance, which is really beautiful. And another thing to keep in mind over here is we have the Fool card sort of giving the kind of, you could say the plan, if you will, in order to, because like it's easier said than done to quote unquote lean into your shadow self and like look into that, explore it more is the best way I want to explain it. But over here, we have these individuals that are going to approach this labyrinth, and obviously it's confusing and doesn't make any sense. They're not quite sure where to go. That's how it feels when you can tell something isn't quite truthfully, the full explanation isn't being given to you, and you can like feel it, but you don't know where to start essentially with that. Well, if you can see over here, this little pocket of space opening up is a beautiful rainbow, and it is pouring towards the labyrinth, but not into the labyrinth. So it's this idea, so it's something out of the realm of what is normally, how do I say this? If we view this imagery as like what is essentially this, the space is what it is. And if we look at this opening with the rainbow, the idea of like everything's gonna be okay, that does not have proof the way that the purple road is proof. It's there. The purple road is there. We don't have proof. This is just an idea. So it almost feels like it's popping up, creating a hole, an opening, and doesn't quite necessarily match the physical, which is like we absolutely know the proof of what is there. The individual's there, the labyrinth's there. Oh, I did not mean to zoom in. Well, I didn't know I could do that. What? That's fun. Okay. Okay, now I know that. Maybe I'll use that in the future. That's actually... Sorry about that. We're learning things together. Anyways, but the idea of the rainbow, the idea that you're looking at it and holding on to it as a concept. See, this concept that doesn't match everything else, even though it doesn't make sense, broke through this world that says proof it is. So the impossible already happened. So you're essentially holding into your brain, okay, the impossible can happen. So maybe the possible of understanding something that I'm not supposed to be told the truth about, that I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, all these things seem like they're not possible because the proof hasn't been shown to me yet. But maybe I'll believe that it will happen because over here, this is technically going back to that idea of like not possible, and it broke through. So that means the impossible is possible. So then I'll hold on to those ideas essentially as I move down that labyrinth. If I just keep holding on to the idea that that rainbow broke through, even though it shouldn't have, that I will reach that end of that truth, that I will understand my shadow self and figure out what this all exactly means, even if I don't know how I'm going to do that, but that it will all in turn figure itself out, very much like you're sort of missing where you came from, and then in turn that also leads to unexpected events that are bringing everything together. You didn't know those were going to happen, and then it all worked out in your favor. It's that same sort of energy being reflected and brought over here with the moon card. That's the thing that's going to get you through those time periods where you initially are like, yeah, I see that I'm feeling this way, I'll look into that. And then as you look into that, you're like, I don't feel so great, I don't really know what I'm doing and how this all adds up. But reminding yourself, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. Something will pop up. Something will work out in my favor. I'll have some sort of epiphany. I'm just going to believe and know that my goal is to get to the truth, and this is the method in which I'm doing it, and it will all work out. You get what I'm saying? And keep in mind, when we talk about the Fool card and we talk about the believing in the impossible in order to get to the end point, it doesn't mean just saying, oh, I believe, I'm positive, so on and so forth. It's about realizing that once you open yourself up to the possibility, it's then looking and then taking advantage of the possibility. So it's not just saying it, it's also seeing it and then using it to your advantage. So essentially, it is a very cool month for you. I'm telling you this right now, people who make it through the other side, and I'm not implying that you won't, you will, but people who make it through the other side of this stuff are very, very, very happy with the abilities and things they didn't know they could use to their benefit in everyday life. They didn't know they could want it and enjoy it. They got some humor that's going to definitely be an enjoyable experience amongst all this other kind of deeper, not quite clear where the path is going, exploratory exploration. So yeah, I'm excited for you. Please leave this video a like, a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for our final group, group number 4. Group number 4, let's find out, what do your spirit guides want you to know over the next 90 days by looking at the cards. We've got Queen of Pentacles upright, Knight of Pentacles upright. Ooh, I'm already hearing information about this. 4 of Cups upright, 7 of Cups upright, 9 of Cups upright, and 8 of Wands in reverse. Okay, cool. Give me a moment to look at all of this. Oh, this is fantastic. This is a very fantastic month for you. Okay, so first let's start with the Queen of Pentacles over here. And if you can see in the imagery right here, we have some bees. So bees, which is so appropriate because I talked about in the beginning of this, how in my Patreon video, we talk about hive minds. This, in somebody asking a question on there, they were asking actually about bees. So this is so appropriate that the conversation of bees is popping up. But anyways, going back to this. So bees are going to be more drawn to this month. I know that can be horrifying for some people. Don't worry, you're not going to be stung. And in fact, it is a positive thing. It is a message being drawn to you, given to you. When we have certain animals or, you know, insects and stuff like that continuously drawn to us, they're trying to give us a message. And oftentimes or not, it is through the animal, or I guess you could say insect spirit guide. And this is from bee. So a message from bee is that so imagine a bee going around from flower to flower before it brings its pollen over to the hive to make its honey and all that good jazz. When it is doing this, you know, it's just popping around from flower to flower. It doesn't know which flower is going to be its next flower. It doesn't know the importance of each individual flower, yet it is all still adding up to something sweet, which is how I love they beautifully put it. And so essentially, breaking this down more, it's the idea that while you might not be aware of it in the moment over these 90 days, each thing that you're doing is actually moving you forward. And I'm really happy we can actually talk about what it's moving you forward to. I'm very excited about this. It's gonna this is all really fantastic. You're gonna see the actualization of what you're moving towards, is what I'm saying about in the 90 days. And that you just need to trust in the process, essentially. So you're gonna have time periods where you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Everything I'm doing is maybe not that special, or it's not really towards anything specific, but it is still that little bit of pollen that is adding up towards that overall honey that is going to be made and enjoyed and appreciated by you. So it would be a good idea to kind of check in with yourself when you have those moments of thinking you're like, am I even doing anything? Yes, you are doing something. And being like, you know what? I've got my little pollen. I'm doing something with my pollen. It's building up. I don't know what it's building up towards yet, but it's building towards something. Keep in mind, that doesn't mean you can't have hopes, wishes, and desires and put those out there. I do want to say that when we have the 9 of Cups over here, we'll get back to that in a moment. So you can throughout the month be like, these are things I'd like to happen, or I'd like an easier life. I'd like to feel more connection. I'd like to receive these physical, maybe there's physical objects you would like to purchase or enjoy or something like that. Whatever it is, enjoy it, go for it, vibe with it. But anyways, going forward, the bees being attracted to you is giving you that message and that symbol. And essentially, you're going to just throughout the month check in with yourself and be like, I got this. It's adding up towards something. I may not see it yet, but it's more than you taking steps forward. It's that each part of the process will, in the end, be the thing that gives you the skill or the asset that will create what's going on over here. Now over here with the Knight of Pentacles, specifically my spirit guide said, and I did ask, they said that your father is going to approach you with financial advice, essentially, and basically give you knowledge in how to work with it, how to understand it better, so on and so forth. I did double check if this applied to people who, I'm so sorry, if your father's alive, essentially, is what I'm going towards. And it's only for if he is currently in this physical world. It wouldn't be sort of a beyond this, in the non-physical world type of message. But I also asked, what if you do not have a great relationship with your father? What if you don't want this advice? If that would be okay? And my spirit guide said, totally fine. Not a big deal. You can totally ignore it. You're not missing out on anything. So this is more applying to people who are like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to them, I'll hear what they have to say, but they are going to help you in a really positive way, and you should hear their insight and definitely adapt it. Going on over here in the 4 of Cups, you are going to be given a gift. Now I wanted you to focus on this imagery. 4 of Cups is traditionally the bad mood card, essentially. Bad mood, you're just in a rut, nothing's quite, feeling that great, nothing's really making you excited, or maybe you're a bit grumpy or something like that. But you notice over here we've got this crazy looking cup. I think it's a very cool looking cup. My spirit guide said that you were going to be given a gift that is just so random and maybe not what you would conventionally be gifted, and the gift almost feels like it's not specific. Is it specifically for a birthday? Oh, it's not for a specific birthday at all, in any situation? None. Okay, because some of you guys have birthdays over these next 90 days. No, it's unrelated to this, but it is some form of a gift. You've just been given a gift, and this gift just totally excites you. It pulls you out of this perspective where nothing's quite kind of getting you pumped, and it creates a lot of inspiration from there. It's kind of like the branching off point for other ideas and concepts moving forward. It almost feels like here you're doing your thing, you're living life, you're not quite sure what it's adding up to, but it does have value, you just don't know that yet. You're going to look back and realize its value. And then suddenly something kind of sort of gets you excited, gets you pumped, it's like, the best way I can think about it is someone randomly gives you like a camera and you maybe weren't previously interested in that type of stuff, and then you're like, oh, that's cool. And maybe you even start thinking about it, how the camera is put together technologically. Maybe that gets you excited into how technology is broken down. And then before you know it, you start to explore a whole hobby of that. Do you get what I'm saying? It's that kind of idea. Now, this is where it gets really cool, and this is the reward stuff got going over here. So I'm going to start with the Nine of Cups, and then we'll go to the Seven of Cups. So in the Nine of Cups, this is about you getting everything you possibly could wish for, and then some. And that gets like 300% guaranteed when we have a Seven of Cups. Because Nine of Cups is like getting everything you possibly want. It's like not only did you get it, but you got and then some. So it's like an extremely positive, like, woo, I received my manifestation card. But the Seven of Cups in this case, not only in its traditional meaning, but in its representation, my spirit guide said, is about you, by the end of the 90 days, they said, you are going to have a lot of options being presented to you in multiple areas of your life. So maybe there's multiple people that want to date you, multiple friends that want to do different social situations, there's multiple different career opportunities. A lot of different avenues in your life have a lot of options. And essentially, in a good way, you're kind of like overwhelmed by it. You're like, whoa! Now, this is not necessarily something where, this is kind of like at the end of the day, you're going to make the decisions you want to do if you want to pick one, a couple, whatever. But the idea is that you essentially, by the end of the month, everything is adding up towards you getting everything you possibly could want and then some, and then from there you kind of can narrow it down. But that's the point, is that you're in this really overflowing type of energy and trajectory, which is really, really, really cool. But in addition to that, we have the Eight of Wands in reverse. Now, this is being specifically read as the 8, representing this idea of loops, cycles, and it being in reverse is talking about the energy that you keep getting kind of. Think of it as like wands represent energy, 8 equals like loops, patterns, things you feel like you continuously fall into, and with it being in reverse is the ending point. I'm just pointing these out for my people who are my tarot training course enjoyers. You can really break things down easily like that. So what we're mostly focusing on is, it appears that in the past there were some times you found yourself being like, you know, like a good example of a loop is like, you're like, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, and then you don't, and you forget about it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it tomorrow, then you don't, you forget about it. Nothing wrong with that. Or you keep finding yourself in a little habit where like maybe you want to get something done and you come home instead of like watch TV or something like that. By the way, I am not shaming any of this. Go for it. Live your best life. Everyone lives their life a little differently. I think that's a very relaxing way of spending your life. But the point is, maybe there's something that you find yourself falling into that you would like to change. Well, I'm really happy to say, through the multiple activities we talked about, as already 10 out of, or 11 out of 10 of getting everything you want and options and then some, you will also naturally be breaking free of those energy cycles. And there's something really important to think about in the future when you ever find yourself in an energy cycle. So this is really interesting. When you go to the spirit realm, you can actually witness loops you're in, and you can physically, with your spirit body, step out of those loops and essentially just get out of them, essentially. And then, man, I'm saying essentially a lot. Sorry about that. Not meaning to. Anyways, when you step out of them, there's a real feeling of a shift of being like, whoa, I could just walk out of the circumstance. It wasn't about being like, tomorrow I'm going to start a new day. I could literally see the circumstance as a whole and walk out of the whole entire thing as a whole. But while you can do that, when you do, I'm just saying that if you're aware of that or have experienced that, you're suddenly aware that it is like an energy cycle that you're trapped in, and that's why you're trapped in it. You keep being sort of following this river of this current that's pulling you down, so to speak. Not pulling you down as in a negative way, just pulling you through the tide. That's what it feels like to be in like an energy loop, so to speak. So when we do things that are radically different, we take on a different energy, which that energy can happen through your mindset approaching. We talked about having that different realization, that inspiration, those things like that. And I would say if your parents coming to you with this type of information, that might be out of the norm for you guys. It might be interesting. But anyways, that's the thing that pulled you out of it. And so when you find yourself in a loop, don't see it as like, I gotta do something, I gotta do this, and you keep finding yourself saying the same thing every day. take a moment, acknowledge that energy, maybe meditate on it. What does it feel like when you're in those loops? Not just the feelings you have, but think about the day-to-day life. What does that energy feel like around it? And it doesn't always have an emotion like bad, sad feeling. It could be like, it could feel really light and whimsical. It could feel heavy, but not necessarily dark, but just mass related. Whatever it is, acknowledge it. Right? And then as you go forward in life, you can keep being self-reflective on your own energy and pick a different energy to focus on or exude. And sometimes that is the thing that pushes it out of the way. Often people are not like aware or tuned in with that kind of thing. So you can either do that, or just by simply doing something massively different can do a lot. And it doesn't mean doing something new the next day, but instead in that moment, viewing your circumstance in a different way, as we talked about over here. So you're going to have a really good month. Or not month, sorry, 90 days. It's all building up. It is all adding up. And, well, a lot can happen in a little bit of time. And I think that's pretty darn cool. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please give this video a like, a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I'm wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing the next one. Goodbye.